Can you believe it? It is the 99th episode of Wayne's World and Kelly. And before we introduce our special returning guest, I want to remind everybody, guess what's July? Huh? It's Shark Week. And look at these. People are giving me little gifts about Shark
Shark
Week.
Month, not Shark
I'm sorry,
Week.
Shark Month. I like to be corrected constantly because if not, I'd lose it in life. But look at that. I got two gifts of sharks for Shark Month coming up in July. There's 5 weeks in July. We're gonna have to decide if the first week is gonna be, it's our 100th episode, so we may do something different. And then we'll probably have 4 weeks of attorney. So, hey, Bob Coy, welcome back to the show, brother.
I am honored to be back. But what I'm wondering is you chose me for 99. What is the prize for being 100?
One, I can't. I was about to say something, but I can't say it because somebody might try to get it from $1.
Yeah. Now, if you're in a grocery line and you're the 100 customer or the 1,000 customer, typically groceries are free, something. I don't know.
I think that's a myth because you and I and Wayne know that story, but have we ever actually witnessed it? I think it only
No.
happened on commercials,
Yep.
you know. So maybe that'd be today's subject. What is real and what isn't? My hair is real. My accent ain't. Um, but no, seriously, it's just good to have you on the show. And there's an abundance of things we can talk about. But I want to just first of all just check in and see how things are going. I know you and your bride are doing well. Whenever I see you, you both seem to be happy. I know why you're happy. I'm not exactly sure why she is.
We need to get her on the show next time. She'll tell you why she's happy. She is very, very happy. And I'm blessed. She's blessed. No, it's a good thing. In fact, our working relationship continues to evolve. We're doing behind the scenes some podcasting, and soon and very soon there will be a podcast with Bob and Stephanie. We're calling it Decisions and Direction. And we're helping people with the decision-making process and the direction that their decisions lead them. So I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, that's breaking news, and I love that. And we'll promote it. So it's going to be D&D.
D&D, yeah.
Do either of y'all play Dungeons and Dragons when you were a kid?
Okay.
I know I did it. I had friends that did, and I still trying to figure
Yeah,
out the
I just discovered that my marketing wisdom may not necessarily be in complete alliance. So yeah, we didn't think D&D. We were thinking decisions and directions. Yeah.
Well, thank goodness, because that was just, no offense to anybody that was into it, or I don't know if that thing still exists, but that was a bizarro game.
No, that was dark, actually. That was
It
not,
was,
I mean, no. In fact, if you were a parent, you had deep concerns about
I
your
would
kids
hope
being
so.
involved in that activity because it led to a lot of tomfoolery, if that's a good word to use.
Tomfoolery
Well,
is a very good word. I love
Thank
that
you very
word.
much, Wayne. Yeah.
Love it.
tell me you're old without saying you're old.
Yeah.
Oh, I was putting on my trousers this morning, and I said, "Gee."
Yeah.
I know is tomfoolery a word that your parents used, or is that one that you
Oh,
sometime in your Vegas
absolutely.
days?
Oh, absolutely. Hooligans, tomfoolery. There were a bunch
Right.
of really effective, today they'd be 50-cent words, not 75 cent, but yeah, they'd
Right.
be a little bit more valuable. Yeah,
Inflation.
it's my way of a throwback Thursday, so on Wednesday.
My parents used to ask us, it was everything copacetic. And I'm like,
Copacetic.
wouldn't it? So, me being a smart aleck ninth kid in the family, I'd go, wouldn't it be easier just to say okay? Not dodge the shoe. But do you remember copacetic, that word?
Yes,
Yeah. Everything okay? I mean,
everything's okay. Copacetic.
they had some words back then, some words. So you're going to talk about decisions and dilemmas? What's it going to
No,
be about?
it's called decisions, plural, direction, singular. we go through a process when we're making decisions, and it's going to have everything to do with your personal life and your professional life from a decision-making process. And making the best decisions, we have less regret, we have some sense of accomplishment, and when we find that tool that assists us in the decision-making process, it becomes like an extra assistant, if you will, And sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a podcast, sometimes it's a policy or a principle. There are so many different parts to that in the direction that we take.
You do realize without bad decisions, we'd have no country music.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a fact, because the lyrical content is everything we did. Well, it's a lot of tomfoolery is what it is. So
yeah. I had a pastor, Pastor Barry White, up in Park Valley Church up in Haymarket, Virginia, and he used to say that a lot of bad decisions were made after 10 o'clock. And he had a lot of great wisdom, but I thought that one was great. If you get home before 10 o'clock, your life will be better. And I guess that's what it's about, making good decisions, right? Or is it about making decisions, period?
Well, I think we can learn, life is full of choices, and they're good, they're bad, they're foolish, they're smart. Sometimes we don't know until after we've made that decision, because it's the result of the decision-making process that we live with. So can I get on the front side of the decision-making process and use the tools that are available, be a little less reactive and more responsive? Those are ways we can really think through making the best choice. There's always good. And I've always said, okay is a word that frustrates. It's okay. Well, it's okay.
It's copacetic.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Let's get better than okay. Let's move from okay to that's good. And then, man, it was the greatest decision I ever made. Man, you wouldn't believe what happened. Sometimes those great decisions, well, they start with a little more thinkubating, if you will, a little bit more visioneering, taking the time to really consider the result, the objective, and the goal, and pacing it in a way where you get more out of not just the experience in the process, but the final outcome.
Okay, I'm going to make a decision right now and kind of insert into what Kelly should have done in the beginning. Is you've been on the show before and we've had the pleasure of hosting you, okay? But there's people that are watching right now that have no idea who you are. So let's go from the beginning and you tell everybody who you are and how this content of what we're talking about is relevant to their everyday decisions. I know you, but a lot of people don't. So let's go to the beginning and you can tell us about you.
Absolutely. Well, for 30 plus years of my life, I pastored a church here in South Florida, and it was a very, very healthy, strong, vibrant community. I enjoyed that. But then as I stepped away, probably about 10 years ago now, I found myself with access to the community at large. It wasn't just the faith part of our community, but it was businessmen and businesswomen who, at wherever they were at on their adventure, could use a safe person to talk to. And when I say that, let me tell you something. I'm convinced right now, especially at the C-suite level of life, the CEOs, the CFOs, the COOs, there's a lot of them that are carrying this huge weight of responsibility, and their decisions have so much more power because they impact so many more people. And for them to have someone they can say, I don't know, what am I doing? Or how do I do this? Or what's the best way to do this? I found that without any advertising, without any self-promotion, I just had those people from the community contacting me and saying, can you give me some advice? Can you give me, some counsel? And the life coaching side of my life these days has just exploded, especially over the last 5 years. Well, actually, it started with my last podcast with you guys. Man, I'll tell you.
That's a good decision that you made. That's a good decision you made.
Yeah. No, sincerely, that's my sweet spot in life. My sweet spot in life is to be the listening ear for someone who's about to make a decision and just ask them the kind of questions that allow them to have a little bit more self-awareness just before the expression comes out of their mouth and policy is determined in whatever arena that might be. And I'm really enjoying that part. So I have a handful of clients. I stay pretty busy. I have room for a few from time to time, but I really enjoy what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
let me ask you a question.
And it was I'll just say it was the impetus to the podcast because my wife is in corporate America. She's in the insurance industry. And in her world, as we talk through what happens in her day, especially with her team of people, and then all of the personal life coaching that I do, I am now filled with experiences that I think that somebody else's experience needs to become somebody else's information because nothing new is under the sun. And we have an opportunity to tell somebody else. I know a guy who did the same thing, and here were the results in his life. Oh, really? I know a guy who did this, and here are the results in their life. And you use somebody else's experience, whether it be good or bad, to help somebody else have a better experience.
I believe it was Socrates that said, a smart man learns from his mistakes. A brilliant man learns from other people's mistakes.
That's good, dude. That's good. That's good. That's strong.
I sounded really smart saying it was Socrates. It might have been my coach in junior high school. I don't know. So I have a question though. When you're talking about making bad mistakes or making bad decisions and making good decisions, some decisions are, you really don't know the outcome. And sometimes they're really big decisions until they happen. Other ones, we know right off the bat. I know I'll sit there and go, I'm doing something really stupid. I'm doing it anyway. So I think a lot of people have that discernment already in them on probably 95% of the decisions they're going to make. There's that 5% where you don't really know the outcome. If I do this, what is going to happen? But that's something I run through my mind all the time. And honestly, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going with the bad decision. And I don't know what compels me to do that. I got an idea, but it's interesting. I think most of the time, we know. Now, when it comes to business decisions and stuff, I'm a big fan of getting counsel and all that other stuff. But in a lot of life's decisions, I think we know which road we're taking, and we know it could be creating a big challenge for us, but we do it anyway.
That's absolutely true. And I think that what we want to do in life is have enough of those very safe decisions that we can bounce off a friend, talk to our wife about it, we move forward. But those big decisions where there has to be an awareness, a self-awareness that says, these are my strong points, these are my weak points. I'm about to do something and I'm not that strong. Who do we bring into our closer circle and say, does this match? Is this me? I've got a small group of men. We meet together probably about every 4 to 6 weeks. And in that environment, we throw things around. I'm about to do, I'm thinking about. And there is a lot of safety in a multitude of counselors. Now, there's not direction in a multitude of counselors. There's safety in a multitude of counselors. And the difference between the two is a handful of really great decisions in life have been made when other people said it can't be done. So what you don't do is surround yourself with people that say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and then not do it because they told you. One of the things that I tell all my clients is this, and it's a very simple yet profound truth. If I tell you as a life coach what to do and it's good, then I get the credit for the decision. If, however, it's bad, now I get the shame for that decision. So here's what I do. I to just ask enough questions that I go, hey, let me tell you something. Here's what you should do is make your own decision. I've given you the pros and cons, but there's times in life where, and I call this the it's a disquiet condition inside your mind where you can't let this thing die. Whatever the vision is, you just stay there. Maybe it's you want to write a book and you can't get this thing out. You're not an author. You've never written a book before, but you just can't get it out. And somebody says, well, you're not an author. You've never written a book before. Yeah, but when do you write your first one? So
right.
the go for
you're not an author until you publish.
Exactly. But the go for it spirit and the willingness to try something, life's filled with risks. I risked today my life driving from my condo to the building I'm in now. I mean, life's filled with risks, but measuring those and getting around some safe people, bouncing ideas off those that you respect. Let me tell you something, it's a life changer.
You know, someone like Roger Bannister was told you can't do the 4-minute mile. He did it. Now, there was no downside to that I can think of, but other times there are a huge downside of taking that risk and failing. Like, I don't know, jumping out of a perfectly good plane with a parachute. How would you advise people on that?
The parachute?
Right.
Who packed it? Okay. Number one, is it a used parachute? Sometimes people get a used parachute.
Well, wouldn't you like one that's already had the experience of being succusful? Exactly. I'm not sure if it's I don't know if that's a bad idea or not.
Hey, this parachute just got out of the plane. You can use it right now. In fact, it's 50% off.
It's brand new. It's never really been tested. Let's go for it. I want one that's been a couple times, but I don't think I want to do it.
Let me tell you something though. I over the years I've done a lot of premarital counseling and a lot of marriage counseling. And in the premarital stage,
it's the same comparison. Getting married.
I was hoping you'd make the connection. No, but sincerely, here's what I discovered. I know that in reality, the strength of that relationship has more to do with the power to commit than it does the individual personalities of the people that are coming together. So sometimes I'd see a couple and it's like, this is not going to work. But it did work because of their level of commitment internally. And you couldn't see that in a conversation. So when it comes to this decision-making process, you get as much information as you can, but then if you can't get that undying sense that you need to do this out of you, then it becomes a bucket list item and you have to do it before I die. Before I die, I need to write a book. Before I die, I need to start a business. Before I die, I want to get married. Whatever those big decisions in life are.
Before I die, I jump out of an airplane and then boom, I'm dead. Well, let me ask you a question, tying this all together. So when you're in a marriage, what does pulling the ripcord represent?
Ooh, you know what, Wayne, that's yours.
No, I'm actually gonna deflect on that because I'm not capable of answering that. So I'm gonna take the easy way out. But I do wanna. I got something really good that I want your opinion on. When you talk about the decision making process, is interesting. Sitting in a room with a bunch of fellas, round tabling stuff. So I was very lucky that I had probably the best parents you could ever have. And so when I was going through the tribulations of life, what do I do? How do I get there? This, that, and the other thing. I would always look at my father for advice and wondering why he never really gave a lot to me. So I asked him one day, I said, Dad, why have you not shared your wisdom with me over the years like I really wish you would have? And he looked at me and he said, because I really don't know what's good for Wayne, but I know what's good for George, which is my father's name. And I thought, wow, talk about great life-changing advice. If I tell you what to do, it's going to be through the lens of George. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good for Wayne. What's your take on that common sense piece of wisdom?
Well, I'm a Bible guy, and there is a reference in the Proverbs that says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. The word train up a child in the way, in the original language, it's bend. Everyone's got a natural bend. Everyone's got an instinctive, intuitive focus point. So that when somebody is naturally into math, where'd that come from? Sometimes that's not genetic. I mean, I have two children, and both of them are different, and both of them have strengths and weaknesses, very unique to themselves. And in many ways, not a reflection of me. I mean, very, very independent. And I think that what happens, especially with a father being as wise as yours was, to say, hey, guess what, Wayne? Your choices are going to be your choices. They can provide an infrastructure. And
For
within
sure.
that infrastructure, it's filled with principles. And those
Yes.
principles, if they're timeless and true, and in other words, I heard Jordan Peterson say something the other day, and I love his style of communication.
So do I.
It was profound. It was simplistic. He said, hey, here's a way to live a better life. Don't lie. And it was just matter of fact. Just don't lie. If you don't lie, you'll do a whole lot better in life. Just don't lie.
Right.
Well, I mean, if your father instilled that principle into your life, you're already on a better path. Because I met a guy years ago. He was in the auto repair business. And when we first met, we had a conversation, and I asked him how long it would take for my car to be finished. It was going to be a couple of days. And he reached in his pocket. He got a little black book, and he wrote something down. I said, Phil, what are you writing down? He said, I'm writing down what I told you. And I said, now, why is that? He goes, well, honestly, I realized in his pocket, his little black book, it was his fib book or his lie list. He had to have a lie list to keep track of what he told customers so that when they called him back, he was able to tell them what he told them. And that's a beautiful truth attached to what Jordan Peterson said. If you just tell the truth, you don't have to come up with the baloney.
Right.
If you're just busy telling the truth, and here's the point. It's a simpler life. It's an easier life. And those principles in life, if you have a truth factor, you have a commitment factor, you have an integrity factor, all of those principles now build a structure. And when you take your own bend and put it on top of it, what happens? Well, now the product is better because what it was made with are things that last longer. Does that make sense?
It's a great answer, and I appreciate hearing that. It was one of those liberating moments, like, the foundation has been built on the house. We got you to where we think you need to be, which always in my house was like, we're going to get you until the age of 18, and then you're on your own. Well, of course, it wasn't like they were like saying, okay, we never want to hear from you again. It was just like responsibility time, and with a clear understanding of you're going to make decisions based on a lot of things that we gave you, and hopefully it's going to be the right ones. But the ultimate thing I think he was telling me is it's ownership of yourself.
Well, and the ownership of yourself implies a freedom that is personal.
Absolutely.
Because think in terms of...
just to that point, okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but both of my parents have passed, and quite frequently my sister and I, when we talk about our parents, we said the greatest gift that they gave us was the individuality to formulate our lives in the way that we wanted them to. It wasn't like, you need to go to college, you need to go in the military, you need to do this, you need to do that. It was like, nope, here you go. That was the freedom. I just, sorry to interrupt you, but man, that's big in my life, what you just said.
No, and the reason I say that, because it's linked to the fact that a lot of actors give birth to actors, and a lot of race car drivers give birth to race car drivers. A lot of golfers, you see Charlie and Tiger. I mean, good one. It's somewhat hereditary, if you will, and in the gene pool itself. If that being around the golf world caused Charlie to pick up a club on his own and he feels the joy when he does it, it's a wonderful thing. But what if it's not? What if it's not? How many issues of life flow from the conflict internally when a kid has been placed in a world of expectation where everyone's saying, well, I just thought because your dad did, you would, and the kid's got to live with that. That's got to be painful. And totally. I remember the movie Chariots of Fire, one of my favorite movies. And, the sister of this Olympiad hopeful is a missionary. She believes that her brother's call in life is going to be a missionary, and the press is on. He loves running. She thinks he should be out doing the gospel thing. And in the movie, there's this one line where he says to his sister, all I know is that God made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. It's my
Dude, that's
favorite line.
awesome.
Well,
That's
here's what I
awesome.
think. All I know is that God made me define it. And when you do that, you feel this sense of accomplishment. You feel this, like it's electricity in you. So that when Kelly's on a podcast and he has fun and he enjoys it, I've seen him at expos, and this is a guy who does not sit down. He
Right.
loves connecting. He loves people. He loves making people smile and feel good. That's his sweet spot. And I would not want to see him behind a desk too many hours of any day, because I believe that he is Joe Public. You know,
Right.
he's fit for the world of being a politician.
Right.
So enough about
right.
me.
No,
let's go back to Tiger for a second. So I've seen him interviewed about this and his kids. So his son has the love of golf and apparently has the skills too, because he's doing very well. His daughter decided, I really don't want to be a part of golf. And from the get-go, Tiger said, great, let's find your passion. And that's powerful. But now my father was a great golfer. I have the passion and love for golf. I truly do suck at it. And a lot of people think I'm being humble or lying. And then they go, oh, you really do. Or you're not that good. So the other point I want to make is with Wayne, with his father, George. My dad was Floyd George. His dad was George, one of our many connections we have. But I would imagine your dad did what a lot of great dads did. Was your dad didn't sit there and tell you what to do or guide you that way, but he probably did a phenomenal job of leading by example, and something that my
dad?
father did.
Yeah, whose dad?
Dad? I'm talking about Wayne's dad at this point, George.
Yes.
What about your dad? Tell us about your parents, Bob.
No, actually, we grew up lower middle income just outside of Detroit, and my dad was a hard worker, a very hard worker. I think I learned my work ethic from my dad. At the same time, however, he worked in a service truck doing furniture and dishwasher repair, and he probably about the age of 48 got hit head on, and he broke his back, broke his legs. He got disability, and I saw the pain of him not being able to work. So I learned the value of work, but I also saw the frustration when you don't really feel that accomplishment or that sense of provision for your family. So my mom had to go to work, and it was an upbringing that taught me a lot of lessons, but the example was one that left fuel within me to not follow that same pattern.
Right.
Not that I could plan the accident, but I just learned that there is value in production, and there is value in productivity, and there's value in accomplishment, and there's value in purpose. And I continue to use more words to say that when you have an opportunity to find a fit, and it's kind of the round peg in the round hole, or the square peg in the square hole. I mean, that's, I think, the intention of our identity and the intention of our creator is so that we don't have to work at what we do. We enjoy that busy side of our involvement in the activity that we are designed for.
Okay. Well, okay. So a question on that. So, yes, we all want to find that sweet spot. People don't. And there's a reason why it's called work. You found your passion. So did I. So did Kelly. We're fortunate. A lot of people don't find that. Now it's up to them about whether or not they need to keep pursuing that or not. We can't speak for them. However, I think we could all agree here that that's not the way it is for a lot of people. They don't find that passion. There's a reason why it's called work. It's a tired cliche, but it is work. For folks like us that found our passion, I think we're fortunate. So what about that? Do they try and continue to find that as the clock is ticking, or what? I don't know. What do you think?
I would love to see more people not give up, sadly.
Yeah, I agree.
What happens is that we find ourselves in a job we really don't care for, but we are daily serving in some form. And if in fact that service leads to the reward of a paycheck, and now we've got bills, any sense of adventure sadly dies with the routine.
Right.
So now we're in this regular routine, and what happens is the routine turns into a rut.
Yep.
The rut keeps us stuck because the longer
the rut turns into
we go down.
The rut turns into resentment.
And there's a handful of jobs. I've worked with some roofers, and one day, comically, a roofer said to me, well, I said, how'd you get into roofing? And he said, it's a quicksand job. And I said, how's that? He goes, the longer you're in it, the deeper you go, and the deeper you are, the harder it is to get out, because your knowledge has value and it sets you apart from the other roofers. Now, that's true with everything. The longer you're in it, the problem is the longer you're in if somebody doesn't recognize your knowledge or your experience and you can't go up a level, this is where you're stagnant and this is where you're stuck. So one of my clients this very week is a guy who's been in real estate for a long time. He flips the big boxes, he buys and sells warehouses, businesses, and he hit a wall and he's in a fog. So we met together to discuss, where did the fog come from? Is it a financial fog? Is it a lack of excitement? Are you waiting for the next big deal? And let me tell you something, as we talk through the entire experience of his day, I did identify that he loves the deal and he loves the sell, but he is also deep in his heart an educator. He likes to teach. He likes to tell people stuff. And that element of his life was missing. Well, we stayed on it a little bit longer. I can't give you too many of the details, but I will say there is a renewed excitement in his life through the process of self-awareness, the joy of a specific opportunity, and where that will lead him in the future. So he may make, at this season of his life, and I think he's in his late 40s, he may make over the next year an adjustment to how he receives his compensation and what he does with it to feel that greater sense of, I know why I woke up today and I'm happy I did.
Wow. That's great example. That's gold, brother.
So I'm at a restaurant recently, right? And have this waiter, and he's just got tons of energy and personality. And, unfortunately, we don't see that as often as we used to. And so I remember exactly how the conversation started. But I told him, I said, you're doing a terrific job, and I think it should be commended. And he says, well, I'm tired. He goes, I'm just really tired. I don't know how much longer I can do it. I go, well, you don't act like it. I go, how old are you? He says, and he said he just needed a break from life and everything because he's just so tired. He was 23.
Good Lord. Tired at 23. Oh, boy.
I've got a winter coat. I don't know why I still have it living in South Florida. I mean, I may go north at some point, but I hope not. I have a North Face jacket that's over 30 years old. And this guy's 23. My jacket's not even tired yet. It's still, but he was tired. But I've also met a couple people recently, and I don't know if it's an internal thing or it's an age thing or what, but two people I met recently were very restless in their occupation. No, actually, three people that were restless in their occupation. None of them work with us. Everyone loves it at LGC, thank God. But three people were just saying they were looking to change a lot of things in their life, including what they do for compensation. And I think sometimes you just got to embrace who you are and what you are doing. And like you're talking about a guy that he's going to probably stay in the same career or maybe change what his role is in that career, but not completely step away from it. Although I know a lot of realtors right now that are looking.
Yeah, there's a lot of seasons because sometimes it's the marketplace, and we'll analyze that. If there's a market condition that is adjusted, how we do what we do, that can lead to a sense of defeat. You were very successful until this happened. In the same way, when it comes to your general revenue, I know sales guys, and I talk to a lot of sales guys, a product will be released and they're getting the numbers, and then those people in authority over their numbers adjust the compensation.
Oh, the number one killer right there.
It is.
Never will understand that.
Goes,
Never.
Last year I made this, and then they changed what my percentage is, and now I'm making this. And you talk about taking the wind out of somebody's sails.
Gone.
Will do it very, very effectively. But in addition to that, when you think through the vocation and the avocation, so we've got this thing that we do for money to pay our bills. We can sometimes venture out in that hobby thing that we love doing. And the next thing you know, that has an actual monetization opportunity that we didn't even know existed. And we go, you know what? I make this in my garage, and I think I'm going to try and sell it. And then we sell it and we go, wow, I just made more money in a week's worth of work in my garage doing my hobby than I ever made here doing, and transition and change happens that way. And it's one of
sometimes you find out it's the opposite though.
Yes.
Sometimes you go in that garage and you make your little birdhouse and you spend 20 hours doing it, and probably worked harder than you do on your 40-hour-week job.
Hang on a second.
And then you end up making $1. Oh, we have a visitor.
Thank you. I have an opportunity. I didn't know how long we were going to be on. I thought
we got
in a half hour.
We're past time. This was great.
We're past time.
Okay.
Shocking that we get together and go overtime,
No, I love it. And I love, both you guys I have great respect for, and how you do what you do. You're both an example of finding that sweet spot, and the natural joy that's in you, the excitement, the sense of I belong here. There's nothing like it. And I would encourage all of our viewers, if you're not there yet, it's not that you'll never be, it's just making the right decisions to be there.
Bob, do you want to give your contact information out to the folks that might want to enlist your professional services? So this would be the venue to do so, man. You are highly recommended from Kelly and I. That is for sure.
Yeah, so I don't take phone calls. I like people to send me emails. It may sound a little cold, but I would like to have people send me an actual, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I want to do. Because if not, I'd be picking up the phone and having endless conversations. So I apologize, but it's sincere. So it's 4C Services, the number 4 at gmail.com. So it's FORE, 4C, FORESEE, 4C, services, all one word, then the number 4 at gmail.com. And I've made it intentionally difficult. So somebody,
you really did.
I tried to make it difficult. It's why I got a fictitious business name called Decisions and Direction. I hope that's going to make it a little easier for people. But 4C services, FORESEE, services, 4, the number 4 at gmail.com. And please contact me however I can help. My sweet spot is helping somebody not make a regrettable decision.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time. And, definitely nice to get reacquainted with you, and looking forward to seeing you on again sometime. You've been a great help to everybody, including Kelly and I. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate the time.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Have a wonderful rest of the week.
You too.